SPSN.
Well, welcome into the CAVS Hour. I'm your host, Bubba Starts, on the Scene Project Sports Network. I'm here with Homme High School head football coach Tom Culver. We're going to go over last weekend's big win against Menno. Coach, fantastic team win, I would say. We had some special teams really performing, but we had some really great inside runs too. So we're going to go over a couple of plays today. But is there a couple points that you kind of wanted to highlight off the top that really made a big difference in the game?
Well, I think the big thing is, first of all, thanks for having me. Thanks for doing this so we can highlight our kids. After last week's game, you know, we started out strong and then we kind of faded, and I know our kids were upset with the performance, and so they wanted to prove that they were better. And you know, we've talked about handling adversity and things like that. And you know, Scotland Menlo scored first, and you know, it would be easy to think, oh, here we go again, but no, they came back and they scored the next 44 points. And you know, we had good defensive play, you know, great offensive play, special teams, so it was a really big team win.
Well, and it was a challenging defensive game too. They got a pretty talented, athletic little quarterback behind and the Menno team, and just watching the kid run around and making plays and extending plays with his feet makes it really hard on your defensive backfield to keep up. And that was kind of that first drive was a lot of that, but it seemed like they really started buckling down. You were getting great penetration from the defensive line to kind of force their quarterback into having to make plays. So it was really fun to watch, like you said, them battle the adversity, having watched last week's game that obviously didn't go our way, and then for them to battle back. So what's the first play we're going to watch here?
Okay, this is, at this point you can see on the scoreboard it's 8-8. We had scored on our second drive, and they're going to punt. And so we have, coming in here, we end up blocking this punt. In fact, we blocked 2 punts in a row, but this one's got the best video footage. But anyway, Logan Stark blocks it, and then Isaiah Crownover, and I can do it in slow motion here so you can kind of see Logan comes shooting through there up the middle and blocks it, and Isaiah's right there too. And on the sideline, us coaches were going, you know, to each other going,
scoop and score!
Yeah,
scoop and score! But you can't fault the young man. No. He doesn't know who's coming behind him there. And it looked like Isaiah would have blocked that one had the other young man not gotten there first, right?
Yeah.
Huge penetration up the middle you can see on that. They had a little bit of a low snap, so I'm sure that factors in a little bit on their side. But the execution of getting it blocked and then able to cover it up there, very impressive. What goes into a play like that from the kind of your setup point? And are you in a punt block formation at this down and distance on the field and kind of preparing for that? You know, most kids aren't going to boot the ball 60 yards in high school football, right? So you know you're going to get good field position anyway, and you know your returner can get back there, flag a fair catch, and you're going to probably end up on the 50, right? So you're able to take some risks and to say, hey, we're going to go after this ball, that's got to fire up the defense and the special teams.
Yeah. Well, and a credit to Coach Van Winkle, he does our special teams. And he had noticed, well, they had guys spread out. They only had one personal protector back there. And he was to the left of the punter. And so we were coming at it from the right, you know, and he had one guy going out to try to create an alley, because if that wingback over there goes on the wide guy, because usually on field goals, punts.
Can you back it up to that point, and we'll kind of we'll see exactly what you're talking about on the screen as well.
Yeah.
Mostly for me, I didn't, I played my freshman year of football, but we weren't doing a whole lot of study back then, and you know, the early 2000s tape was a lot harder to come by.
Right.
And a big shout out to Huddle for this amazing technology and the advantages that it gives, not just your team, but all teams that are willing to use it. So shout out to Huddle. Thank you for doing this for our local amateur sports teams. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so you can see here's their wingback where I have my cursor right now. All right, and then they've got the one personal protector, and he's out here a ways, so there's a pretty good gap. If we were doing this, we'd have this guy way in here.
Yeah, a good step and a half probably farther inside.
Yeah.
So a little bit of setup on their side that was a little off, but everyone has to execute, right? That's
Right.
the importance of everyone doing their job.
Yeah, and you can see we've got 3 guys in here. We've got one that's going to kind of try to occupy this guy to get it and to keep that gap there so he doesn't step in, and then I'll run it again in slow motion here, and you can see Logan and Isaiah come through there. See, takes that end out, and see that guy.
Freaking Logan just murders that poor guard.
Yeah.
Just runs him right over.
Yeah, and the wing back in that case didn't even stay to help block. He just was taken off.
Right.
And so they didn't have enough. We had 3 bodies to their 2.
Right. A little bit of an adjustment on their side that wasn't made that makes this play possible, right?
Yeah.
I think the purpose of this show is to kind of show fans and the casual football fan, right, that doesn't understand all the nuance of what goes into making a play like this. It's very easy to see the block and the recovery, but it's hard to see what goes into that. So appreciate you diving in on this one. And a huge play, a huge momentum swing, because it felt like it was kind of going back and forth right there. The defense had come up with a 3 and out, I believe, on that series, had forced them back. You can see that they're, behind the line. It was a 4th and long, very long. You knew they were going to have to punt it away. So, yeah, huge momentum shift there. And then on the ensuing next play, ran it in for a touchdown, right? So as much as we want Isaiah to grab that ball and run it in and to get that special teams score, they ended up doing it later in the game anyway. So not a big deal.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Well, and the good thing for Isaiah, it's not a big deal because he scored 3 more times as the night went on. So, but
fantastic. All right. Well, moving on. You got some more plays for us to check out here.
Let me go down. All right.
This was fun too because it was right in front of the home bench. It was right there where everybody could see it. And another one here. Talk about your inside running game. You guys had a great, I can see already you played a little bit there. You had a little bit of a trap going on this play with the pulling guard coming over. It was really working for you guys. Was that something you identified going into the game that was like, hey, we think we can exploit a little bit of this part of our game against this team?
Right. Now they played different defensively than what they played from the previous week we've seen against Korska Stickney. But the one thing that we knew, all right, they've got their defensive ends outside here wide, plus their safeties. They're in a 4-3. There are 3 linebackers here. You got one safety way out here and the other one way out here. So if we can break up the middle somehow and inside, these guys are going to have chase from behind. And a lot of times they were coming up, and the defensive backs were coming up toward the line of scrimmage, when like with ours we tell them your first 3 steps have to be back, because in case it is a pass, it gives you a chance to read what's going on. So we ran a fullback trap to Isaiah, and so we call this a 22 trap. So Isaiah's our 2 back through the 2 hole, which is the hole just to the right of the center. So, and I'll go in slow motion, but Caleb is our center. He's going to block down on this D tackle. Alex is our right guard. He's going to that middle linebacker. And Peyton, our left guard, this defensive tackle is coming across, and he's coming across. Peyton is going to block him from the side.
And exactly, for those of our listeners and watchers here, so the guard who's kind of nose up on this tackle, he's going to kind of let him go, right? So as a defensive tackle in that mindset, you're like, I'm free, right? I'm going to crush this guy.
Yeah.
And then you're getting clipped by pulling guard. Go ahead and roll the tape, Coach. Let's watch this.
So I freeze it right there. There's that defensive tackle like you talked about. He's coming across, and I'm going to go get the quarterback, and all of a sudden he gets blindsided. And so,
well, and you can see here where you almost have 3 untouched or 2 guys blocking ahead of Isaiah here to go against just the one safety. He's not even looking the right direction, right?
Correct.
He's kind of off trying to find the play still and identifying it. And really all Isaiah has to do is to beat this safety down on the lower end of the screen, and he's off to the races.
Yeah, because you can see their middle linebacker, this outside linebacker on that side, they're all going this way because they see our quarterback opened up that way.
Well, and everything's going out, right? You
Correct.
have all the motion is going out there. Almost looks like it could be running an option play or some kind of pitch out to the opposite side. So very well designed.
Yeah, and Isaiah's taken a jab step left, so he gives the guard time to get there. All right, and so we'll continue it, and here he comes. The end goes down and hits that other linebacker.
Yeah, and that safety's got no chance. I mean, Isaiah with a full head of steam coming out of the backfield. The kid's got wheels. That's why he's back there, and he's off to the races. That was such a fun moment as a fan watching from the stands, and he ends up getting all the way in for a long touchdown score. But there's so much, and that's what we really wanted to highlight, especially on this show and getting in here, is that it takes more than one player, right? Football is the quintessential team sport, and it takes everyone kind of doing their job and making sure that they're doing the little things right, and plays like that happen because everyone did it right. And what a block by that pulling guard to stand up that big defensive tackle and to leave that crease open. Got to make you happy as a
and that's one of the things we told the kids after the game about the game of football is, everybody, all of our aspects, the three aspects of offense, defense, special teams did a great job. Football, one guy doesn't do his job on one play, it ruins the whole thing.
Right. Yeah, well, we can go back and reference Meadows' play where maybe the wing, their wing back is a little too far outside, and it leaves a little bit of a gap to make it all happen. So, you need everything working in unison, and that's what really makes it a beautiful game, isn't it, Coach?
Yeah, it's a big deal, and it's pretty cool when, things come together and kids, we preach to our kids about, running the football. A lot of times we don't have great passing stats, but some people think, well, you guys can't throw the ball. No, we practice it all the time. We're ready. But in South Dakota, if you've lived here long enough, you know that there can be some pretty ugly weather days.
Right. And you have, two young quarterbacks, two sophomore quarterbacks, not a lot of experience under their belt. You're not trying to put them in a position to have to do that. And playing from behind last week, you had to throw the ball a little bit more and had to try and move the ball down the field, which turns into risks, which turns into interceptions and the ball going the other way. So, really good on you to put the impetus this week on the running game and just let them kind of get out there and cook. But you've got a couple of real great athletes that are playing quarterback for you too that can run the ball themselves. And I think we saw a little bit of that later in the game. I don't know if you singled one of those out, but I know the Wagner kid had a pretty good run later in the game too. So
he in fact I can show that because we've told our quarterbacks this was a what we call a bootleg pass, or is what the play was. What we're doing here is we're faking a run away, and our two tight ends are going out. Our left tight end is running what we call an 8 or a post route, so he's going down the middle of the field. Our right tight end is we have a passing tree where the pass routes are numbered, and he's running a 5, which is to block for 2 counts, release out here. But we've tell the quarterbacks, kind of a guy by the name of Bud Wilkinson several years ago from Oklahoma. He was the Oklahoma head football coach, and he said when you throw the ball, only 3 things can happen and 2 of them are bad. So, you complete is the one good thing, incomplete or interception are 2 bad. So, we kind of tell those kids that you get out here, and if there's nobody out here,
if there's green grass, go take it.
Absolutely. And so Ethan did a really good job on that here. So we get the play fake. Everybody bites. We had a
great vision there by the young man too to see that guy biting in. That big defensive tackle's bearing down on him. But look at the wheels, man. Just takes off.
Yep. Yeah. So there was. That was like a what did it say here? 18-yard gain on that. So we'll take that anytime.
Right.
There's a lot less risk in that.
Well, your chances of completing a 20-yard pass, I got to imagine, in these kind of leagues are fairly low, under 50%, I would assume, for most teams. So, if you can go grab, 20 yards downfield with your legs, kid, get out there and do it. So That was an awesome run too. I was watching that. We left a little bit early to get the kids home, so I didn't get to see some of these. And it seemed by halftime you guys had her pretty well in hand. Not that anything can't happen in football, but I saw this one on the highlights. I wanted to make sure that he got some props for this. Even though the score is what it is, all of this is experience points for all of these young men, right? You have a very young team this year. We just have a small school, and we should point out for people that are watching that don't know, this is 9-man football. The Homme school, this district, and these teams are very small population-wise. So can you talk a little bit about the differences between an 11-man game and a 9-man game? It really shrinks the field down, I would have to imagine, or opens it up. Either way you want to look at it.
Yeah, you'll see if the big difference is offensively, we have to have 5 players on the line of scrimmage. In 11-man, they have to have 7. And so basically, if you added 2 tackles in, we don't have tackles. But like we tell our tight ends, you're basically tackled.
You're the tackle, yeah.
Yeah, but you get to catch the ball once in a while.
Right.
The big difference, I think the huge difference, and I've had in the past, guys that in their younger years have played 11-man football and then have come and played 9-man, and every one of them has said defense is a lot harder because you have the same number of eligible receivers, except you have 2 less defenders.
Right.
And it makes it really tough.
So do you play pretty much no cornerbacks, or like what's the setup defensively, I guess?
Well, what we've been running is a 3-3. So we have a 3-3-3. We have 3 down linemen, nose, 2 defensive ends that are stood up, and then we have 3 linebackers, and we have 2 corners that are up fairly tight, and then a free safety.
One deep safety.
Yeah, free safety in the middle. And there's a lot of variances. I've seen teams play 5-man fronts, 4-man fronts. It's basically what your philosophy is, and also what your personnel is.
Personnel is so big at this level, I gotta imagine, because it's not the reason you're playing 9-man football is because it's a numbers game. Right. So that means that most of these teams, and you can see them on the sidelines, there's not 50 people on the team. Right. There may be 30 people on the team, and half of those are freshmen and sophomores sometimes. So
yeah, well, and we have 31 guys out, and we have the majority of them. We have quite a few freshmen and sophomores, and then we have I think we have 6 seniors, and we have quite a few juniors. But when you only have 31 kids, and like tomorrow our JV team, so basically I take 11 or 12 of them and keep them with me on Monday. We watch film, go lift weights, and then the JV's going to Parkston tomorrow, and they're going to play Parkston, Bonham, and Kimball White Lake are going to play a junior high and JV jamboree.
Awesome.
So they'll play a couple games. So, but I like to, and one of the things I've always done is, as much as I can, is get these young kids in on a varsity game, because there's sometimes that in practice we definitely limit it, and we be very careful, and we talk to our older guys like, we're not going to pick on these young kids, and the one thing that I think has helped us this year is our JV and our kids that are on scout team. When we're running the other team stuff during the week, they've improved so much that they're giving these guys a really good look, so that they have a role in help prepare these older guys for the games. But we also want our older guys, if there's a 150-pound freshman, if you roll him, what does that prove?
Right.
So because we don't want those kids to be discouraged. We want them to stay out. Yeah. Because they're going to grow up and.
You're graduating this year. I need that kid for the next 3 years. So don't go kill my freshman.
Yeah, and so our older kids are really good about it. They treat them really well, and.
Did you have any defensive plays that stood out for you guys? We've seen a little bit of the special teams. We saw a couple of really great runs from the backfield there. I'd love to get some of our defensive guys, which I know are a lot of the same guys. Obviously, you have a lot of the upperclassmen that are playing both sides of the field, which speaks to another thing with the 9-man football is that you have to be almost more versatile, right? Because there aren't the numbers to do that. Even talking about the tackle tight end position, right? Like most teams with a bigger tight end can just focus on that. Yes, they do a little blocking, but they're mainly focused on the route tree. With your team, and especially as run heavy as you are, your tight ends need to know that tackle position very well, and then you get to go out and catch a few passes.
Right. Here's defensively here. I'll show you. This was a good play, and I can kind of tell you. Let me get to it, and then I'll pause it, and I'll kind of explain. Now, one of the things that I talked about, on that punt block with Coach Van Winkle, what he did, and it was, I think it was excellent planning from watching the film, but also, sometimes you have to make in-game adjustments. And we talked about keeping this quarterback in the pocket, not letting him.
Well, especially after that first drive. I mean, he carried the team all the way down, had a couple of real nice passes, but it was really his legs extending plays.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about some of the plays were 13, 14 seconds when he's got the ball back there.
Yeah.
It's a long time to have to cover somebody running around in the outfield.
Absolutely. And so what Coach did is, Coach Koch, he decided that, okay, he did some blitzing, but the blitzer always came from the wide side of the field. And what we want to do, so like he's kind of in the middle here, but we wanted to force him to a sideline, a short side. So then,
shrinks the field down.
Shrinks it down, and we can maybe corral him, or he's got to keep backing up. Now he gets closer to the backpedaling to the goal line, and then
those big defensive tackles that are chasing him down start smelling blood in the water and a touchdown of their own, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And then that means he has to throw the balls that much in the air, that much longer, which means our defensive backs. So this was an interception, and you can see we had a freshman out here, Titan Ronick is guarding this guy, was with him the whole way, and they came, and then Caden Zomer's our free safety here, and he scrambled around, he threw it up to this kid, and both of them were there, and Caden came down with the interception. So we'll go in slow motion. Okay, so he's with him, he cuts out, and he throws that one away, and they're both there, and I think Titan tips it.
Yeah, definitely got a hand on it, didn't he?
Yep.
Another huge play, and this one almost went for a touchdown too.
Yeah,
he steps out one at the 4-yard line there.
Yep. So I mean, that was a really good play. So, a lot of times you watch film and you have a plan of what you want to do for the week, and you practice that all week.
Can you play that in real speed just so we can get a sense of how fast this game moves? I think we've been watching a lot of this slow-mo, and it seems fast even there. So let's just watch this in real time and see how quickly it develops. And a great job of the defensive line and the blitzer keeping this intact. What a reaction to grab that ball after it's been tipped and you kind of see it coming into you. And it takes great hands back there.
Yeah, Caden had kind of a similar one to that last year when we went out to Hill City. Excuse me, in the playoffs, where defensive back tipped it and he came over to help and reacted, and then he caught it and he got his feet down right before he went out of bounds. So it was kind of nice because both of them were right in front of our bench, so then the kids get a eyewitness view of it.
And that may be the only downfall to our field setup is that with the track going around, you're so far away as a fan. It's hard to, I think, and it deters a lot of fans from even saying and getting a little bit louder because you know that the boys can't necessarily hear you or feel you. I grew up in Deadwood, Tom, and we played down there in the bowl, right? And the stands come right up to the edge of it, and what a different environment it is. But it's nice, to get the fans out there. Always nice to make a play along your own sideline, whether you're home or away, just to get that extra juice, man. It's good to hear your boys get behind you.
Yeah, it's pretty cool because you could see in the background they were jumping around, and once they realized he had the ball, that, before that, even with Titan, I mean, that's a pretty good play for a freshman against a senior. And that kid's taller than.
Yeah, that kid's like 6 inches taller than him, it looks like out there, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if we keep improving, by the end of the year, I think we can be awful hard to beat. So.
Well, and every single play gives you a little bit more experience, these young guys, especially towards next year, right? And you have a big junior class, you said, right? Quite a few out there that are playing now. They're obviously playing prominent roles on the team. As all these sophomores and freshmen level up next year, it bodes very well for the future of Homme football. Right. So speaking about the future, what do we have to look ahead to next week? I know you guys are going on the road.
Yeah, we go to Gregory. They beat the first game of the year. They beat Scotland Menno 48-38. They had a shootout. I know the guy that's the new superintendent over in Scotland, and on social media he had that night at 9:47 p.m. there was 9 minutes and 47 seconds left in the game. It was just,
that's a late one. Yeah,
incomplete passes and
really
scores.
Extends the game.
Yeah, and so they like to throw it around, but their quarterback didn't play last week. He was on the sideline on crutches. So
that doesn't bode very well for them this week. Of course, no injury report in amateur football like this, but you have to assume if a guy's on crutches one week, he's probably not going to be on the field the following week. So maybe a little bit of an advantage for you guys there.
It sounded like he had a high ankle sprain that was, and those things can be worse sometimes than great, depending on how severe it is. But then they're playing a freshman quarterback. Well, when, I've had to play freshman quarterbacks in the past if you don't have many older kids or anything like that. By the time they're seniors, they're pretty good because they've seen just about anything you can imagine.
But you can get after a freshman quarterback too and put some pressure on them and try to cause some mistakes in that backfield. So I'm assuming defensively, that's going to be a big thing that you guys are doing. Offensively, obviously, you're a run-heavy team, right? We see that. You got a great backfield. The offensive line obviously likes to get out there and get dirty and to lay some hits on people. So I'm sure we can expect a lot more of that going into this game as well.
Yeah, and what I figured over the years is, we're primarily run the ball, want to be physical, because what happens is usually if you're physical in the backs, I told the kids a quote the other day. I don't know if you remember Herm Edwards. He played in the NFL, he coached in the NFL, and then he was an ESPN analyst, and he talked about running backs running behind their pads. And so when you run behind your pads, that means if you see that you want to try to avoid contact, obviously, but if you see that there's going to be contact, then be the hammer, not the nail. You're the one who initiate it and try to run that guy over or run through that tackle. Well, in the first half, they may make those tackles, but after half, 2-3 quarters of getting run over, I've seen, especially with high school kids, sometimes they'll accidentally fall down or something because they don't want to get run over. And you look at all three of our backs, but especially a guy like Isaiah, who's 215 pounds.
He's a big kid.
Yeah.
Not as big as his brother, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and so, and he drags people with him, and Luke and Major do a really good job of doing that also. So, and you can see number 14, Major Arstad here, where the kid might lack in a little bit of height. He makes up for it with tree trunks of legs, right? Yeah. And that's hard to take down for a lot of high schoolers that don't have great tackling technique. He's like a cannonball out there coming at you, shot straight out of the backfield. Yeah. That's a hard thing to try and take down. So on top of it, he keeps his legs moving all the time. And, and there's some times I think where in a couple 3 plays I can think of this year where I think people thought they had him tackled and they were trying to get low under him and he just ran right through him.
Yeah, where are you going to go?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, thinking about it, being 6 foot tall, I was about the same height when I was in high school. To try and get that low when you're to break down and to get there,
Yeah.
and then you hit their legs and it's this big around and
Yeah.
solid against you,
Yeah.
it's a tough thing and demoralizing. Like you
Yeah.
said, alluding to having to stick to the run game. And I think it's easy for a lot of kids that watch the NFL these days. And of course, everybody wants to see those huge, touchdown passes. Yeah, but in this league, it's not always the case, right? Especially with a young team. So
Yeah.
you have to be committed to what you do well.
Yeah, and the other thing that some people may not understand is, okay, if I'm a quarterback in the NFL, that's all I do. I study defenses, I know the playbook, I do all this stuff. In high school football, all right, let's just take Isaiah for instance, okay? Isaiah is our fullback. He's our middle.
He doesn't come off the field.
No, he's our punter. He's our kicker. A lot of these guys are on the field. If there's times that we'll try to give them a break, but a lot of times they don't want to come off. And so, those guys, if they practice in the NFL 2 hours a day, they're practicing just on that position.
Right.
Where
it's a lot different game.
Yeah.
And even at the college level, it's a lot different because
Right.
you're getting more specialized and more
Yeah.
specialized as you go. So amazing. Well, Coach, I thank you so much for your time today, jumping in with me on another crazy idea that I've had doing this podcast and shooting content. But I thought it was important, not just for us to get a chance to talk ball, but to showcase these kids and to be able to shine a light on them and maybe give them a little bit of coverage that they're not getting on a even statewide level or local level to that end, and to put some tape out there for other colleges and things to see so we can advance these young men's careers as well.
Yeah, I think it's cool. And I know our kids, I told them, the start of the year, after you watch film each game, you can make their own. They all have a profile on Huddle, and they can make a highlight tape, because now when you nominate them for all conference, all state, all-star games or whatever, they want to see a Huddle video, and so they have it already made. It's good to go. And but I guess the last thing I would say is, it's kind of nice. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about these guys. I mean, all of these guys are fine young men. They're great kids. Their parents have done an outstanding job with them, and so I really enjoy coaching these kids. And I know, Austin and Jared and the other coaches feel the same way. I mean, they're good kids, and I think the sky's the limit for their capabilities.
Always. Well, Coach, thank you again for coming on. And you young men, if you need help with some of the audio-visual stuff and getting your tape and highlights done, feel free to reach out to me. You're going to find us on YouTube. These will be showing on the Scene Projects Sports Network. We also have a Facebook page there as well. But if you need some help putting together those highlight tapes, I personally would love to help you with that as well. So with that, this has been the CAVS Hour, our very first episode here. I think we're going to keep doing it, Coach. I had a blast doing this with you, and I hope you did as well. Hey, we will see you guys next week to cover the game out in Gregory and hopefully celebrate another CAVS win.
All right.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Thanks for tuning in to the Scene Projects Podcast Network. We appreciate you listening. You can find more at thesceneprojects.com. Join our community.
Pour that love on me like water. Got an ocean full of love that's made for two. We can sail upon the ocean breeze and the sunshine feels like you loving me. We got a good thing going on, that's true. I'm feeling fine, fine, fine. Boy, your love on me like wine. Come on, fill me up. Let me take a sip from your loving. I'm feeling fine, 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 fine. Boy, your love on me like wine.
SPSN.